Hello everybody, welcome back to Language, Litigation, and Integration Part Something. I am your host Brad. My constitutional rights are violated. The primary function of this lecture series is to bring awareness to crime. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution gives you a right to your writings and discoveries, and the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution gives you a right to just compensation for private property used for public use. If you've never seen me before, all of my research is heavily, you can see it, it's the From Rhythm to Algorithm series is the main crux, but all of the content on this channel is like ancillary or bolstering the proofing that is demonstrated in that series, but it reworks all of physics, all of science, and subsequently it bumps up against a lot of classified technology. And so what do we do here in the great country of the United States of America is we violate every law that has ever been written. We say we can do basically whatever we want, and we destroy one of our own citizens' lives. That's me. And so what I do is I cover any current events, pretty much anything that I want to cover, but history, law, current events, is kind of like the focus, but really just any current events, talking points that comes to mind. And so, again, I want my money. I want out of this country. I have been seeking asylum. I have suffered grave bodily harm, multiple counts. In no way is that a joke, an exaggeration, but nobody cares. If anything, the most predominantly, overwhelmingly apparent thing is human behavior is profoundly hypocritical. People just form little groups. They get into a little group that benefits their personal life, their career, their family, and then they just kind of say, well, screw everybody else. And it's illegal. Again, I am in the jurisdiction of Andrew Ginther, of Michael DeWine, of Donald Trump here in the United States of America. And the United States Constitution is as real as fucking Santa Claus. And so my life has been ruined, my health has been destroyed, my property has been thrown away, I will never have a career and a family. But I comment on the news. And so a lot of Iran war stuff, we have some more exciting demonstration of extreme understanding of the law, of not being butthurt losers out of the Ohio state, or not Ohio, but a police force within the state of Ohio. We cover a little bit of Afro Man's trial. I'm sure you've probably seen a little bit of that. But again, just other random talking points, a lot of this war, Iran war stuff. Which brings me, again, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump, is a celebrity in an office where you have control of an extremely powerful military. He is in no way a legitimate Commander-in-Chief. He is no way an adult. He is no way a man. He's an orange bitch, and he's a criminal. He's literally been, convicted in a court of law, for 34 counts of felonious things. But does the law, again, matter in this country to any extent whatsoever? No. And so, an absolute embarrassment to the office of the presidency, an absolute embarrassment to the office of any commander-in-chief. The concept of the military to defend your homeland or to defend your way of life that sentiment extends to every country, and to every species, and to every section of sentience. But are we using that office with honor, with dignity, with integrity, to uphold the Constitution, to respect our citizens, to bolster our own economy? Absolutely, of course not. And again, I present these dictions, I am not an American citizen because I have been deprived of my constitutional rights. But I will use the terminology we in reference to the places that I live, but in no way am I associating with the absolute depraved and disgusting behavior that is provable and demonstrable from every American citizen that I have ever interacted with. And that's not to say people over in this country or that country are any better. It's just, this is where I have lived. This is the country that has ruined my life. This is the country that pisses all over its own laws every single day. And so, but in no way, again, do I associate, when I say we, it's more of I don't want to be a leader. It's a level of maturity. It's where it's like, if this is the place you live, you kind of take some responsibility, but I've been deprived of my rights in such an egregious and disgusting way. It's just, get me the fuck out of this country. I've truly been seeking asylum for well over a decade. And so, regardless, we have Donald Trump, who's just decided, hey, my whole entire life, my whole entire career, my whole entire personality, and again, the baby boomer generation, I don't know if he's technically in the baby boomers, but again, generations are generations. The culture that you grew up in is the same for everybody. So when you're watching Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani and Michael Franzese grow up through the 80s, that mentality of, if we're the biggest guy on the block, if we're the mobsters, we can do whatever we want. If we control the unions, we can do whatever we want. If we control this or that, we can do whatever we want, is the same for everyone. And so Donald Trump lived through that as well, and his whole personality is, again, this celebrity business guy, where we're the biggest deal and we're going to build the biggest buildings. Are we going to respect the law? No. Are we going to make sure our state structure facilities and organizations function, such as the TSA? Of course not. We're going to go kill some bad guy in Iran. Okay, again, kill bad guy. Does that action result in net positive? Does that change? Does that enact? Is that efficacious? Does it enact the change you want it to? It's not going to. It's just not going to. And so we have all of this discussion, right? Trump comes on and says, hey, the war, we've had productive talks with Iran, and at the same time, 5 seconds later, you can see the Iranian regime, quotations, the organization of whoever's responding, however organized that can be, saying there's no truce whatsoever. We have mines in the Strait of Hormuz. What is the president of the United States talking about? And so you have two diametrically opposed sentiments coming out of both camps. And so Trump is just, again, used to this. If I just speak good stuff into existence, it's going to be real, it's going to be true. And of course it isn't. You kill some guy, which, again, if you could click a button and eliminate all of the inconsistent behavior, the net positive would be for everybody. That would be true. I come at a lot of these world history events from an attorney general perspective of everybody. But again, it's just not practical. The only way, again, this is kind of self-generated change from within, meaning sections of the Iranian people, but not even the Iranian people, right? We have this sentiment of Trump comes out in the initial attacks and says, take over your government. I mean, that would be truly as practically realistic as, again, a governor of a state telling a National Guard, not even a National Guard section, but the governor of Ohio yelling at the people of Arizona to take over their state if they don't like the governor or something. I mean, it would be the people of Iran are going to rise up and, because the Americans or the Israelis shot and killed their leader. It's not, sentiment is sentiment. It's not contained within one person. And so the Islamic Revolution ever since the late 70s in Iran has been dominant. And so killing one guy is not going to change the sentiment of a group, and therefore enact no meaningful change whatsoever. And so then you get death of American citizens, you get these callings for other people to join this war with no clear direction, with no insight. I mean, where are the Joint Chiefs of Staff? How is this? How are you an E11 or whatever the highest jerk-off level is? I'm a master gunnery sergeant and not knowing how humans behave. If we just kill one guy and sentiment doesn't change, it's just going to piss off a lot more people and nothing, right? And then you have the Iranian, I think it was a wrestler or something, but just protesters. If you protest, you're getting gunned down. I mean, it's directly told to the people. And so there's not going to be some revolution from within in the same way, right? You don't have, even if there's some injustice in the United States, not everyone's going to protest. It's now if you were told you're going to be killed if you even attempt, and there's no fruitful end to that protest, what on earth are you going to accomplish? And so this direction of the Iranian people, take back your country, Kash Patel at the FBI, seize Valhalla, Pete Hegseth when he's done snorting coke. And wasn't he a pedophile too? Or didn't he have sex with underage chicks? Well, that might have been Matt Gaetz. But at this point, basically, the whole edifice of American politics is pedophiles. So you can probably just err and say he's probably a pedophile. But regardless, that's kind of our leadership, is just the dudes from high school in the locker room smashing beer cans to go, let's go. That's kind of truly the sentiment. And then they have beck and call army people, Marine people, again, the entire armed forces, the commander-in-chief, the president, and we're going to respect this great edifice that is the United States. To what is that again? Oh yeah, protect the rights of the United States Constitution. Yeah, that's working out. So our leadership is an absolute profound joke. And not in a funny way. It's just, again, like I said, my rights are ruined. My life is destroyed. My health is destroyed. Who cares? Who remotely cares? And so the leadership remains atrocious. And so that's kind of the last update of the Iran war. But we did have, I wanted to read, this is an NBC News post from a couple days ago, because of one of the airmen killed. Again, at this point, there's been 20 or so service members from the United States injured or killed. And to those people and to those families, and to the Simmons family, which was one of the airmen's here, Charles Simmons was killed, or Hegseth met with Charles Simmons, who was the father of Tyler H. Simmons, who was one of the 6 crew members killed in Iraq. And so again, it's like you're going to like think of that progression. Again, I don't know the actual like the deployment regiments of who gets called up, who goes where, when, how that works. But maybe a reservist. I'm thinking most of these people are reservists. They get called up to go do something. You're effectively taking a tanker to a gas station. You can get killed, and then what is Hegseth's technical title? Department of War Chief. He basically sits down, but here's the post from NBC4. Pete Hegseth said, family after family of service members killed urged the administration to not stop until the job is done. One of the people he met at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware was Charles Simmons. His 28-year-old son, Tech Sergeant Tyler H. Simmons, was among the 6 crew members killed when their refueling plane crashed in Iraq last week. Simmons recalled his exchange differently. I can't speak for the other families. When he spoke to me, that was not something we talked about, he told NBC News. Asked if he said anything to Hegseth or Trump about the need to keep fighting the war, Simmons said, "No, I didn't say anything along those lines." A 60-year-old music teacher in Columbus, Ohio, Simmons told NBC News that he has questions about the war and isn't able to draw definitive conclusions when I don't have all the data. And so, again, it's just, yeah, dude, they said don't stop until the job is done. What job? You really like what there is just no clear objective at all articulated, and there isn't one that's going to happen. It's just we have people doubling down on the bad bet. Trump, Hegseth, and I don't think Kash Patel's the whole administration is what I'm referencing. And so, and then again, blatant lying. Like, to me, this would be like spit in the face of that person sitting down. It's like, yeah, fight until the job's done. I didn't say that. What are you talking about, dude? Oh yeah, who cares about your dead kid? It's just like, again, we're losing real lives, again, from every side. I mean, again, when I say we, I'm talking about human beings causing war. And it's like, what is the objective? What is the goal? What is the outcome you think is going to happen? And there was even one articulated, and it's not going to be anything productive. And again, coming from somebody where, if you could execute a surgical strike and take out bad guys, again, in theory, that's right. In practice, that's wrong. That's just what it is. And so, I mean, that was really kind of atrocious seeing, but it's just, and he also said, I have a quote from Hegseth, "We've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We've given them the bottom half." Which again, logically, again, it's like the above and below the ocean. You're not at the bottom. I mean, kind of. So logically it doesn't, but like, again, this like locker room talk from the chief of war. If you're going to do something and you're the head of if you're a commander in chief, the world knows you can do stuff. You don't need to like talk it up. But again, I truly think any sort of international war type of mentality or movement would have to come independently from multiple countries agreeing, because it's just like this, we don't need war. Like, what the fuck? Nobody thinks I am the only adult in the room. That is a fact. So again, atrocious behavior from the American administration, a total illegitimate war. You serve nothing. Again, I am the American citizen. You're fighting for my rights. What fucking rights? Like, what rights are anybody talking about? But nobody cares. Again, truly the mentality of this society is to go play games. Get where you want to go in life, slam the door shut for the next guy and say, look at me, haha, look at me, haha, look at me, haha. It's like, look at all your dead kids dying from illegal commands, and everyone just fucking sheep, man. Sheep after sheep after sheep. Bah! If your friends will jump off the bridge, would you do too? And everyone's like, oh, family, country, God. And they just jump off the bridge. And so, no sadness for me. I mean, it's just like such a hilarious state of hypocrisy, incompetence, and just real consequences. And so, we got that going on there. And because of this ongoing thing, we had a resignation from Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, and he explicitly resigns over this Iran war. So this Joe Kent guy, I'm not going to read his whole statement. He had a resignation letter. He had a wife that had died in combat. But it's so true when, again, like people express the sentiment, would Donald Trump send his own son to war? Which is the real kind of consideration from an actual commander, from somebody who actually knows his men, so to speak. Is that if you're not willing to put your own, right, to treat any other person's son or daughter as your own son or daughter. And so it's like, if you're not willing to go through that in a serious manner, it's like, what do you really have conviction that you need this war? And that takes away the celebrity aspect, right? Where it's like you see, like if it's not the Simmons person from Central Ohio, it's, somebody in the administration. It's like it becomes a much more real consideration. And the fact that is not present is so fucking disgusting that it just immediately disqualifies you from a commander-in-chief. But the American population is such a bunch of fucking cucks that they'll sit there and just like respect the office that has no respect for the Constitution, which is the country in any meaningful sense, and then just take taxpayer dollars to, again, go die refueling a tanker truck, and then people giving you a folded flag and saying you served shit. He didn't serve anything. And so Joe Kent resigned. His wife had been killed in combat, but he just said, Iran posed no imminent threat. Because that's our big discussion, is this other thing with Iran having nuclear weapons. And to me, again, this is just, I don't know how certain, right? If you go blow up this depot, this uranium enriching area, how certain can you be from satellite, from intelligence? And again, that's something I don't have access to. But when you say, we've destroyed, and we see John Fetterman, we'll get to that goofball here in a second, but saying, we took out Iran's capacity to have a nuclear weapon. I just don't know from an intelligence standpoint how certain you can be. But to me, I want to say my intuition is that you can't be that certain. Don't know that for sure. Again, I have direct interaction with the intelligence agency at the highest level, so I'm not going to say what they do and don't have. Because in a lot of cases I don't know, but it doesn't, I know what technology, what phenomenon technology can produce. And so having certainty, certainty in mapping, like if you get a satellite or some sort of, again, data collection from, do they have some sort of underground depot? Do they have some sort of refinement plant underground? I just don't know how certain you can be. But to me, again, from this conversation, it just seems to be red team, we're going to support the red team. And then we'll get to John Fetterman, he's a quote-unquote Democrat. But again, Democrat and Republican has never meant anything practically realistic ever. It remains to be nothing. It's just people, again, echoing sentiment they think is right. But in reality, morality has been perverse because nobody has grown up. And it's just pick your favorite group. And so we had a big resignation out of that. Then I actually thought this was, let's see if there's anything other Iran specific. But no, just some more, I guess the John Fetterman. I have the ogre, John Fetterman, has massive Democrat disapproval after Mark Wayne Mullen for Homeland Security Secretary vote and staunch Israel support. And so again, even like this conversation of relationship between the United States and Israel, and then you genuinely have some sort of like, again, historical, just like, Israel's evil because Jewish people, which is still like in the sentiment, which is so mind-numbingly fucking stupid to me. But again, at one of the other episodes, he said, Palestine has the right to defend itself and Ukraine has the right to defend itself. Israel has the right to defend itself too, 100%. It's just when you have genuine terrorist attack and then you just go fucking decimate huge swaths of people and then say, it's this overreaction sentiment that I see as people would just like gloss over. Again, we can use it locally, where if we had a bar, if you're a law enforcement agent and somebody is genuinely endangering the public, gun, knife, something for severe bodily harm, you pull out your gun, you're giving lawful commands, you're executing your job correctly, properly, and then you shoot and you miss and you hit somebody walking down the street and they're dead. Right? The consequences are immediate, they're direct, but you were in the right of what you were doing. Shit just fucking happens. And so then when you take that to like the world level, where was I going with that? What was I talking about? The Israeli support. Oh, so that's the Israeli support of, again, just overdoing. You legitimately have bullshit coming out of Hamas that, not bullshit, terrorist attacks, murder, rape, atrocious death, brutal killing, and Israel has every right to defend itself. The fact that I have to sit here on camera and say that Johnny can defend himself, and Billy can defend himself, and Susie can defend himself, even the blacks can defend themselves, and the Jews, and the Mongolians. It's just like anybody has the right to defend themselves. But it's just this overreaction to, you listen to a rap song. Oh, I don't give a fuck about who I hit. I'm just going to let it spray. Right? We're a cop, and it's just like, oh, well, I was threatened, so I shot. And it's like, well, you hit somebody in the background. I'm a country, I have faced terrorist attacks, so then I'm just going to decimate entire populations. It's this overreaction where it becomes you're committing crimes as well. But anybody has the right to defend themselves. That to me is profoundly stupid that I even have to say that out loud. It's just this overreaction, specifically in the Israeli-Palestine interaction. It's profound. It's profound. And so then with that being said, I don't get this like anti-Jew shit that is just like the United States is, you know, with with Israel and it's like the bad Jews. It's just like people are just fucking people. And all of this stereotype, I can't believe I'm sitting on a fucking camera talking about this shit. Because I remember sitting in like second grade and thinking, propaganda can't be this fucking real. Like people aren't this stupid. And they're not. It's just like convenient to join groups and then people are pathetic and hypocritical enough where they just don't care. People aren't stupid. They do what is just good enough for them. And so that's what's going on there. But John Fetterman, again, this dude who got like praise from the Democratic Party to like checking himself into a mental institution, which isn't fucking real. This dude is just a total clown, character, goofball. I have no idea. This dude's atrocious. And again, the disapproval, I don't know, the Mark Wayne Mullen for Homeland Security. Again, these different secretary, these appointment positions, it's just like there's so many of them, they all change. It's just like, I don't know who's who. I don't really care. It's one of these things that doesn't mean anything for me to keep up with who these, like what positions they are. But he says, Fetterman says, everyone has Trump derangement syndrome. And so again, backing Israel, backing this attacking of Iran, and then saying, not verbatim, but paraphrase, you know, Trump did a good thing hitting Iran or taking out their ability to have a nuclear weapon. Again, from a military operations standpoint, I just don't know what the confidence is if you saying, yep, we took out their ability to have a nuclear weapon in general, and then specifically coming out of this administration, their word means nothing. So as a student of history, when you read about Tiananmen Square, the amount of history, seeing historical denial happen in real time and then going to read a history book, it's almost like watching a fiction movie at this point. A lot of the big historical events, again, like World War II, the stuff that have happened with technology around, but like this sequestering of information, this smudging of information, this flat out destruction of information throughout history. It's like, how much of this shit could you really know, right? All of the things that were successful in suppressing information, you've never heard about. And so it's just like, and you see that in real time with cameras everywhere. You just kind of throw your hands up, you do the best you can. But John Fetterman's a joke. And again, just Trump derangement syndrome. It's just like the diction and maturity level being demonstrated by our politicians and by our world leaders is that of 14-year-old school children bitching. It truly just is. And so back at home, again, one of the big things, we're focusing on Iran and not stuff that makes anything better. And so we have the TSA operates without paychecks, causing severe wait times, and employees call off work. And so then we have ICE being sent in, which we have another, again, one of these communication things from a citizen. I see Homan, that guy's back. And he says something like yesterday, something to the effect of ICE will be deployed to airports, but not to assist with like the wait times. And then today I saw him, he said he was. And it's just like, I don't know. We have this immigration customs enforcement at the airports, so it seems reasonable. Again, it's just, this administration is, again, all administrations, politics is such a bullshit fucking joke. And if you're seeing it on TV, I deal with the intelligence world that isn't on TV and actually runs shit. All you people can do is open your mouth and tell the truth. And there are hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people in direct positions where they could click a button. And that would be the most effective thing you could do, is to disseminate scientific information, which is required by law. But as we've covered, no one cares. And so, yeah, it looks like going to the airport's an absolute shithole. But again, as a leader of a jurisdiction, meaning a head of state, if your focus isn't on cleaning up your own shit, what is the point? Because again, you can look at J.D. Vance, the great vice president, on Logan Paul's Impulsive when he first gets like nominated. And you can tell it's like him and his wife are excited to have Secret Service around. They're excited to have people on every beck and call of stuff they're doing. And so it's just like, it's like an exciting like personal career development. And you were the fucking head of a state. It's just such a level of immaturity and should categorically restrict you from holding offices like that. You demonstrate like behavior like that one time, disqualified, impeached, gone, next. Thanks for playing. And so, yeah, we had that. We have a couple other things of like decor. that actually, like, I thought this was funny. So Trump said something to the effect of, with the Japan prime minister, "We didn't tell anybody about Iran." Again, paraphrased, Japan would know. They didn't warn us about Pearl Harbor. And then Trump kind of says to her, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Again, obviously neither of them were around or like doing anything, but I thought that was genuinely kind of funny. Again, the reaction is like, this is not presidential behavior, but when you're going to war, you're going to kill a bunch of people. I mean, that's what the operational action is. And so this actually interaction, I found this one genuinely funny and not outside of what I would consider proper. I mean, it's a joke about history and it's true. And so with all I just said about how the administration is a total joke, this was actually to me not like behavior outside of like a bad behavior. It just wasn't. And it was genuinely kind of fucking funny. I don't know. I would imagine the Japan's prime minister's English is pretty good, but you can see again, like, I don't know if they're looking at cameras. I mean, they're surrounded by press people and stuff. So I'm not sure if she's like looking at her translator. Her facial expression didn't change that much. But I don't think, again, being aware of history, again, even like, jokes and stuff like that. I thought that was genuinely funny and not like outside of proper decorum. I mean, it's history, it's true. And so, but then I did want to get back to another quote from Trump of, "I like service members who don't get captured." That's what I was referencing within respects to John McCain, who I guess he's dead now. Again, some of these people, I've been doing this shit for so long with no change in my personal life. But I don't know what year. He might have died way back, like 2016, who knows? Well, Google knows, I just don't know. But it's like, well, then what about our airmen that got killed? Right, Trump, if we don't like service members that get captured, what about the ones that get killed? And so again, highlighting this, politicians just blurt out whatever is good for them. And then Trump, came onto the political scene as different than the other politicians. And now it's just like, he's like trying to behave like a career politician, and he's like even worse at it than career politicians. They're just, again, reacting to the sentiment, which blows in the wind. It just changes every 2 seconds. But the Japan interaction, I did not see that as outside of decorum, like proper, fine decorum comments or whatever. Additionally, he tweeted, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people." And so now, again, Mueller was the director of the Special Investigation Committee that looked into Trump. So it certainly seems to be that was the sentiment of Trump was the innocent person that was looked into by Mueller. The overall, again, action, again, from a head of a state, from anybody, right? When you say, your average dude at a bar, "Hey, man, I don't care if pedophiles get killed or they should be put in the ground." It's like comments like that where it's like, correct. I mean, that is the correct kind of sentiment. But in general, the heads of state or anybody commenting on the death of somebody, not inciting violence, not telling anyone to do anything, but just saying. And there was like Robert Frost, or there was a famous writer that said something to the effect of, "I didn't wish anybody death, but I certainly laughed or, looked at obituaries with pleasantness or happiness," or something to that effect. And so just in general, I mean, if bad people die, you should say good. Do I think Robert Mueller was a bad person? I have no idea of that person individually, professionally, historically, I have no idea. Definitely seems like Trump is just saying, this guy looked into me, he's a bad guy, leave us great innocent people like Trump alone. But that's what you're seeing with this Epstein stuff. It's like when we're talking about the sentiments the same through the 80s and everyone, we can do what we want and the mob's rolling and we're doing all this pedophilia, weird fucking shit. And now it's just like, oh, he did it. Well, you did it worse than me. You did it worse than me. And all of these conversations are going on behind closed doors. So what you have is you just have a fucking cesspool where everyone's saying, well, you're more liable than that person. You're more liable than that person. And everyone's just like doing anything. Atrocious behavior, obviously. And pedophilia is just one of those where it's like, why is that not the death penalty immediately? Like immediately. I don't know. But again, commenting on if someone's genuinely, again, commenting on death of anybody to me is not like, that should not raise any eyebrows. Again, not calling for violence, not calling to action, but just saying, hey, that person died, good or bad or whatever, is completely fine behavior. And so that was interesting. And then those were kind of like that was the big thing to cover. But I wanted to talk about Chuck Norris died at 86. That was a little one, but then two more specific things to the state of Ohio. So the two news stories or current events that I wanted to talk about was Afro Man. I kind of forget what his big song was, but kind of went popular a while ago, like years ago. Still kind of around, but basically the police in Ohio, again, I'm not sure where in Ohio this was, but it was in Ohio, and they get some sort of confidential tip. The person was unnamed, and you have a guns drawn warrant to raid Afro Man's house. And so the police force show up. I don't think he was there. I think his kids were there or something. I don't think he was there personally. But that was for, again, the warrant to search this residence. Guns drawn, they go in. There was some commentary. He wrote songs about the raid. And so he used the footage from the police raid. Again, they're going in there. They're pocketing money. Again, not stealing it, but they, confiscate it, and then they count it, they give it back, they eat some of his cake, or look at this cake. Lemon pound cake was one of the songs. But basically, he's using footage from a raid that happened at his house. How legitimate the warrant was, the public can't really see. But, he uses this footage to create videos and to just straight, like, I listened to a couple of the songs. They were like, it doesn't even matter if they were good songs or bad songs, but like, it was decently articulated as music. And so, but he gets sued, right? So they go into his house, damage his property, execute a warrant. Not sure the legitimacy of the warrant. And then he uses the footage, and then they sue him for defamation for the music videos. And so he had to go to trial for this. This is a scenario which, again, you have, an entire police raid, guns drawn. I mean, this is as full force police as you have. They're going into his house. You can go watch the different details about it. It wasn't a super bad job, but there were some nicky-nacky things about the actual execution of the warrant that weren't great. But he makes music videos of them. He has footage of them going into his house using his own footage, and they're suing him for defamation. This is one of those things where if I'm sitting at the courthouse, or if I am in some position of legal authority, I just kind of look at whoever in there literally filing the suit. Again, can you file shit over the internet? Again, I haven't practiced law in the actual formalities day to day. But point being is, if I was somebody sitting there, I would be like, are you sure you want to try to file this? This would be like abuse of the courts to me. This would be like immediately you hit file, the police force gets sued, counter charges, opposing counsel, because there's an actual trial. He has to show up, go to court, have legal representation if he wants some. I don't know if he represented himself or not. But this is one of those cases where it's abuse of the court system by the law enforcement. And so again, highlighting, as we just watched at the Ohio State University, Lucas Perez commits battery clear as day on camera. The Ohio State Police Force uses their authority to tell the person they saw was the bad guy to go fuck themselves. It's clear as day on camera, and then they're like, oops. And they still don't do anything. So again, as I sit here in the state of Ohio, deprived of all of my rights, suffering grave bodily harm, without the ability to have a career or family, without any respect for my parents' family, with a life quality of 0. The police force in the United States of America is a joke. In the state of Ohio, it's an abysmal abomination, led by our great coward, pussy bitch, Michael DeWine. And so that's going on. And so again, it's just such an abuse of the court system. The fact that this, again, goes to trial, and it's not once... Again, I would literally be sitting in the court office, like, to the police chief, are you sure you want to do this? In the media, he says yes, bam, countersuit, bam, counter charges, bam, counter fines, it would just be like, are you fucking serious? Because then there's this one cop is up there, and she's a fat whale, and she's up there whining and crying, and like, because the song's about her being this woman is humongous. And so she's thick, she had the whole thing. And it's just like, oh, I'm so sad, I'm fat. Bitch, you are in there with a gun, executing a search warrant, and he's using footage from his internal, and again, to me, documentation of law enforcement in the execution of their duties. At no point should the cameras be off, ever. Ever, never, ever, ever, never. So again, public and private for a large degree in legal discourse doesn't mean anything to me. For documenting law enforcement executing their job, there is no such, you can film them, high definition, zoom in, all the time, every time. And you should. And so, but she's up there crying because she's an absolute whale. We have another guy that gets up on the stage, and one of the jurors, or the opposing, somebody's laughing. Because he's basically getting questioned. Afro Man said he fucked his wife or something to that effect, which is absolutely hilarious. But he's like crying like a cuck, and he's like, oh, we were high school sweethearts. I don't know if my missus threw it back for the Afro man. And so again, but it's like, and this is another thing I wanted to say about the Ohio State Lucas Perez, that instance. It's like the person who was, again, documented clearly battered on camera, which again, it's assault, but battered on camera. And then he's even talking up there with his lawyer. He gets interviewed by, again, Colleen Marshall at NBC4i, which, what about me, guys? Oh, that's right, Brad doesn't matter. And so, and more importantly, again, the law in general just doesn't matter. And we'll get to that. That's our next story here in a second. Well, the law not mattering is our overarching theme of this whole lecture series. But what was I saying? I was making fun of these cops. But just, again, I kind of lost what I was saying, but the one cop was crying because, like I said, we were high school sweethearts. And so the suit was for severe emotional distress for $3.9 million in damages. Oh no, the thing that I just lost was the Perez guy, the victim of that. I don't know his name. He's basically up there talking when he's getting interviewed by NBC4, like, oh, I still have headaches, or again, like trying to talk up like he has damages. You don't need to, bro. Like, they committed battery completely on camera, right, directly. I mean, that's like, again, it's reverse the roles. That happens to a cop, right? I mean, the whole book gets thrown at him, and it's just the Ohio State defending the Ohio State, and it's destroyed my entire life, my entire family. I mean, that school goes defunct. It's disgusting. But $3.9 million in damages from the police force for a citizen using closed-circuit television from his own house, from his own systems, and writing a music video. A music video. And so you're supposed to have all of this legal protection from artistic depiction or artistic expression, and it's like, again, it's not even aggressive, offensive, emotional damage. This is disgusting. I have emotional damages, and it's not emotional. I can't eat and sleep properly because I'm being tortured. But no, a police department can sue, but Brad can't because, well, again, the state of Ohio remains the most disgusting abomination of behavior I have ever been exposed to. Literally, I've been profoundly, extensively tortured since I've been a child, continuously up until the moment of making this video. And nobody cares about anything. And so that's disgusting, which brings me to our final point, is what does the people of Ohio actually care about? So we can see Angela Yee, this is another one of our local newscasters, some Asian chick. Like, whenever middle-aged women get too fat, they love rompers. And just like, I have all of this stuff just hanging out, so where do I put all of it? Oh, I'll just put it in this parachute-looking piece of clothing called a romper. Fat middle-aged women love it. But so I watched this whole little 30-minute thing of Angela Yee this one's from CBS or ABC, just another news station. And so we are interviewing Palmer Luckey. He has this weird-ass wannabe porn goatee thing going on here. But he's founding this company, or one of the runners or founders or something, of Anduril. And they are a war manufacturing defense contractor. Which, how these like 22-year-olds become CEOs of defense contracting companies. I mean, you watch the movie War Dogs. So basically it just seems like, it's not, because it sounds like freedom and America and guns and more freedom. Again, unless you smoke weed, then you definitely can't have a firearm for self-defense or for hunting, even. I mean, holy cow, that'd be so illegal. But we can have 22-year-olds with porn goatees saying, we're creating, innovating business. And then back to the, again, being an entrepreneur, being an innovator, and getting a defense contract is the lowest hanging, worst, like, I don't say worst, but like, it's such a shit fucking business. Like, you didn't innovate anything. You just build a different gun, and this Joe over here with so much money has no idea what to do with it. Because like I said, he's an E11 Master Gunner Sergeant Triple Backflip North Korea super agent. And so he's fat and overweight, but he has a huge military budget to spend. And so he's going to go try out some preliminary contracts with this person and that person and that person to see if we can get the best war destruction machine so we can go over to Iran and waste $1 billion a day in ordnance. Because that's economically productive how? Oh, it's not. It's just economically productive for one person, and then ABC can run a story, say, look at the American dream. Hey, ABC, I don't have constitutional rights, and I sit right here. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution, the Fifth Amendment. I live right here in this community too. Where are you guys? But this is where the values of the people of Ohio lie. Killing random brown guys in that country over there, saying please and thank you when if it actually come down to do something good for the next person, not in a million years would they do anything. Again, shout out to James Ryan at Bailey and Cavalieri. I'm a big law firm right here in this city. Somebody I knew growing up, and all I heard about that guy talk about was the United States Constitution. Total fucking joke, an absolute coward and a bitch of a man. And so, but again, it's just so interesting to see because it's like this fat middle-aged woman interviewing this great entrepreneur who's is not innovated anything. He's not the engineer. He's not building things. He just says, I have an idea. I'm going to get this engineer and this board member and this board member, and I'm going to put the pieces together, and I'm the great entrepreneur. And then you really just have a defense budget that's disgustingly bloated, and somehow you got a little bit of a piece of that market share. A total fucking joke. But that's the level of innovation, the war industrial complex right here in the United States of America. People don't care about science or mathematics or the most important logical proofing ever done. Nope, of course not. They care about killing brown guys and saying the American dream with no real innovation, no real contribution to society, just a bigger bomb, a bigger gun. What a bunch of fucking losers. And so that's being built in a facility in Pickaway County, Ohio. But that's founded or run by Matthew Grimm and Palmer Luckey. And so, again, the behavior remains atrocious. The moral presence of any and every other person I've ever met remains completely gone, absent, doesn't exist, non-existent, couldn't exist, won't exist. The potential for changing to maybe kind of exist one day is never. I am going to lose my entire life to criminal activity. All I've asked for is for a little bit of money, to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. Again, what I can do with research is an anomaly, and it's probably never going to happen again. And fuck that. This is my life. I want to be productive. And I can't be productive because of fucking crime. So I document it as rigorously and as in-depth as possible to my estate in the future. Just fuck everybody. They're all criminals. They will not be remembered with any meaningful legacy. And just press the law, enforce the law, and then mock everything they've ever attempted to do. That is what I have for you today. I continue to beg to whoever watches these videos, just for that, a little bit of money to work. You're Americans or whatever, and you work hard or whatever, and you can raise your families to have morals and values in the Constitution or whatever. Just give me my money. You sick fucking animals, just give me my money. That's what I have for you today. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.